I'm going to be talking about Rob Halford's latest book, Biblical. Came out a couple of years ago, but when I searched YouTube, there really wasn't much videos about it. There wasn't much reviews on it. Metal Pilgrim mentioned it, and that was really it. It's a follow-up to his first book, 2020's Confess, and today I'm going to give quick little descriptions about the book and some of the chapters, some of the other sections and parts of the book. Now, there are, of course, chapters within the book, but they're all given like biblical names or different names and titles. But he's got sections of like what each topic is about, and I'm going to be talking about that today. Some really cool, awesome stuff. I really like this book. I must confess, I did not read the book. I was lazy about it and got it off of Audible. So I listened to it. And what's really cool about listening to the audiobooks, as I mentioned before, when you're listening to a book that's of the singer, of the author, and they're speaking it, that's really cool and great. That's why I tend more likely to buy it. If this was a book about Rob Halford, his life and his thoughts, and it was just read by somebody else, even if the person was British or something, I wouldn't have liked it. I wouldn't have enjoyed it. I want to hear the book, and I want to hear the person's voice who wrote the book and the person you're reading about or hearing about. So each section and part is titled differently. So he talks about guitars. So that's good. He's talking about the guitarists. And pretty much throughout Judas Priest's career, it's always been K.K. Downing and Glenn Tipton. Now, K.K. Downing and Glenn Tipton are amazing, great guitarists. He goes in a little bit more detail about them. Unfortunately, the only other sad thing is that they didn't get along. And they didn't get along for many years. But they toughed it out. They worked together. They seemed to work together beautifully. When either in the studio or on stage, these guys were known as such one of the best and coolest dual guitar lead guys out there, guitar team. They were just such great guitarists. I always tried to listen in. They had it on sometimes the tape or the CD thing. I would listen to it and I would be like, okay, yeah, I get it. I can tell. I was listening to Ram It Down one time, and Ram It Down, the lyrics. Even though the album came out in 1988, it was like 1989 or 1990 where I was sitting there with the lyrics and with the page with the notes, liner notes of the tape, and I was listening to KK, and I was listening to Glenn, I was watching the thing and just trying to compare the two, and it's kind of hard to tell, really kind of hard to tell the difference. I know there'd be some people out there who say, oh, I can tell the difference. I couldn't really tell the difference, so I struggled with that and was listening to those guitar solos just to see if I could find any kind of different sound. It was slightly in some specific spots and points and parts, but fully, no, I couldn't really distinguish between the two. All right, so when he talked about bass players, and Ian Hill, of course, had been pretty much primarily the only bass player, with the exception of maybe that one first guy. No, it was Ian Hill. All right, so when he talks about drummers, it's cool that he mentioned Simon Phillips, and he mentions Lessa Biggs. Those guys were good drummers, and even John Hench, the first one. And those guys were good, but then he thought Les Biggs didn't fit the band because he was too technical. But then they got David Holland. Now David Holland was good, and he wasn't an incredible drummer, but yet at the same time he fit the band and did his job, and that was kind of it. The main focus, anyways, was Rob Halford's voice and Glenn and KK's guitaring, up until that time. The drummer was just, he was just one of those other, there's always one of those people, or one of the guys of the band, well, the bass player's okay, he doesn't get much attention, or the drummer's okay, and, what the heck have you. But he talks about those guys, and that's really cool that he mentions those guys. Scott Travis, who's an awesome, great drummer, but the only hang up with him at first was, oh, he's a Yank. Oh, he's a Yank. So, which basically is American. He's an American, so they kind of were like, oh, should we hire this guy? Oh, he's an awesome drummer. Who cares if he's an American? Let him into the dang band. And Richie Faulkner, he's another one of those guys. Now, he's the newest member, of course. Richie Faulkner, when I listened to the last two Judas Priest albums, even though I love and miss KK and wish KK never left, but Richie Faulkner fits in, and it's awesome. It's awesome how he fits in. I really think his guitar work is great. His guitar playing on the last couple of Judas Priest albums really shows that how he just fit in perfectly. All right, the next three sections of the book are definitely my favorite parts. Lyrics, album titles, and album covers. And if you've seen my other previous videos, I did a whole video about Judas Priest lyrics, ironically even way before this book, or what I was thinking that he was going to put it in there. And of course, album titles and album covers. I think those are really cool and important things. And once again, Rob Halford, just like with any band member, will always dislike a specific album cover and will really like one album cover. But it always seems like the album cover that they dislike the most is usually my favorite one. Maybe sometimes it's your favorite, one of your favorite ones.
Was an Egyptian mausoleum in London, and it had a woman sitting at the base of the tomb. I didn't really take much notice of her. I mean, naked women have never really been my thing, but she was nude and in high heels.
A couple funny British slang terms that you get to learn in here also is yam-yams. And yam-yams just refers to somebody from like Berkshire, or I'll let you read the book, but they're from a specific section of England and they're referred to as yam-yams. That's what they call themselves. I don't know if it was a derogatory term from other British folk or other people from the UK within other areas or whatnot. I always thought of yam-yams were those yams as sweet potatoes in a can, and they were called yams. As American, that's why I view yams as not yam-yams. That's kind of a funny one. All right, and then the other one, tough titties, which is kind of funny to hear Rob say something like that, but yeah, tough titties, it's kind of an odd one. I guess that's just a slang term that the Brits always use, or depending on, I guess, probably what area. Maybe the people of Yorkshire and parts of Scotland use it, but the people of London don't use it. I'm not really sure, but tough titties. I prefer soft titties, but
I've never really gone for old-fashioned, sexualized, heavy metal imagery of women with big tits. As I said, why would I? But our cover for Turbo in 1986...
All right, so the next sections are studios, record companies, and venues. These are all other important aspects of it. I should have said this in the beginning, but I'll say it now. What I really love about this book, Confess was his first one where he talks about his life and all the details of each thing, of how each year changed within, his career and then Judas Priest's career, how things changed and what happened along the way. But this is more of a personal, not a personal, but his own specific views of specific aspects of the music industry that are important, like venues, managers, lawyers, the whole copyright thing, and of course getting royalties, all those other specific things, and what you like about the industry, the studios, the album covers, the fans, and all that stuff. It's all in here. That's what he talks about. It's definitely awesome. He talks about the venues and stages. There were some venues that he liked, and then some venues and stages that he didn't like. Some of them were hazardous, some of them were like too small and shitty, which is what happens when you start off as a band, of course. You can have the smallest, shittiest stage anyways. You're not going to get onto any big, great stage until once you become really popular. And or if you're opening for a popular act, but then also sometimes you still get limited store stage space.
For Screaming for Vengeance, I told our designer, Doug Johnson, that I had an image in my head of a screaming eagle swooping out of the sky.
It's cool that you could get all kinds of items. So yes, if you're lazy like me and don't feel like reading, check out the book on Audible. But if you want the physical hard copy, I recommend you get both of them, Confess and Biblical. They're both awesome books. If you're a Judas Priest collector and you want the actual physical book in your hand, to have it and hold it, I definitely recommend this book. That's my final thought on it. It's an awesome book. Rob covers almost every single aspect of Judas Priest and the music industry and everything within his life and everything. And it's an awesome book. I definitely think you should get it.